coffee, tea, and rum. One day the tonguing is done, take our leave and go. At a fair in the sun of town, her hair was blonde and her dress was brown. She made a whaler man come around.
You're watching Cumberland Rover. My name is Nick, and today's adventure on the Cumberland River, I am headed to explore an island. It's about 7:30 in the morning, and you really have to get up early this time of year. It's early August, which is usually the hottest month in western Kentucky, the hottest and the driest, and it has been a very wet and rainy spring and summer this year. Had a lot of flooding in Kentucky, but now it's pretty dry here in August, as it usually is. I've got about a mile to paddle to the island out here at the mouth of this bay, and I'm taking advantage of this flat water early in the morning. Flat water is the best water for covering some distance with the paddle. Don't have any waves or wind to fight. Of course, it's always nice when the wind is in your favor and you can get the sail up, or just use it for some assistance as you paddle along. But right now, the water is glass and it's beautiful. I'm paddling the Pelican Punt today, which is essentially a 16-foot flat bottom decked canoe. And this is a boat that I built specifically for a multi-day camping trip out here on the Cumberland. And originally my goal was to paddle 100 miles, but after some testing and some thinking, that turned out to be not such a realistic goal. So I had to modify my plans and ended up spending 5 days on the river, paddling over 42 miles, which is my greatest adventure to this point, and it was definitely an experience to remember. I gained a lot of confidence and experience in the backcountry from that trip. You can check out the build video and that 5-day camping trip video right here on the channel in the Pelican Punt playlist. And the cool thing about it is you can actually build a Pelican Punt if you like it. I have plans available linked in the description of this video, and the build video is also sort of supplementary to the plans. It really shows you a lot of detail of the way the process is carried out. She has proved to be a very stable, practical little boat. Just hit the mouth of the bay here. The island is maybe a half mile away, if that. And you know, it probably only took me about 20 minutes to get this far, if that. And of course, I've stopped on shore to do some recording and talking to the camera and just kind of piddling around here. It may surprise some people, if you haven't done a lot of paddling, actually how easy it is to cover some distance. And the nice thing about a heavy wooden boat like this is that it maintains its momentum. So in other words, you can kind of let it coast a little bit more between paddle strokes. When I'm talking to the camera like this, I can't exactly get a full paddle stroke, so my technique may not look the best when I'm talking to you from this angle. But I've actually got to kind of make my crossing here pretty quick, because you have to be really super careful about power boats out here. Bass boats, big looper cruisers, everything you can imagine, because they are not looking for little canoes and kayaks most of the time. It's just the sad reality. And I could definitely see something happening early in the morning like this, when the sun is really blinding and reflecting off the water, making it that much worse. You know, they just may not see you, so the best thing is just to stay out of their way. And that's why I flew my red pennant from a little stick on the stern on the 5-day cruise, just to be a little bit more visible. Having that red flag dancing about 3 or 4 feet above the water makes you a whole lot more visible. I'm just about a couple hundred yards away now, and I'm gonna paddle upwind and start out at the southern point of the island and drift downwind to take a look at everything. This island is just kind of one long strip along the Cumberland Channel, and this island I have named Big Pelican Island because during the fall season you often see a ton of pelicans out here. And I actually featured this island on a little mini series last fall called River Islands, which has its own playlist. You can check that out. Man, what a place! This little south point is just a heap of sand that's separated from the main island right now, most of which is probably flooded, but I'm gonna have to actually drift on down that way to find out. During the fall, this is one long continuous sandbar, if you want to call it, but right now with the water being up, it may be sort of segmented. I'll have to drift down that way towards the north to see what the situation is. What do we have here? Is this somebody's thinking stool? Are they coming out to Big Pelican Island just to sit and think? Not a bad place for it. Among the bird tracks, we've got the remains of a somewhat recent campfire, it looks like. Sign of a fellow adventurous soul coming out here. Word to the wise, if you paddle out to islands or shoals like this, make sure your boat is well secured before you go off exploring. Just to state the obvious, because that's my only way out of here. I will be marooned if the Pelican Punt gets away, so I just make sure to drag her well up on shore. And be aware of any big barge wakes or anything that may come along, because I've had a barge wake get a hold of my skiff one time and try to sweep it away. Got the oddball sycamore that seems to be the tallest tree on the island. Down on the point of the island there, that willow is pretty chewed up and just barely hanging on with the trunk laid over, completely horizontal. It's a struggle for trees out here being constantly exposed to the wind, but that willow is not giving up. It's still alive and still growing. It was like that the last time I came out here. They are tough. Kind of reminds me of the Osage orange I have on the farm. It was huge, probably a 200-year-old tree at least. It was actually 4 giant trunks grown together. Actually, that my great-granddad had tied together for support with this huge steel cable. And sadly, when the tornado came through back in 2021, it uprooted that giant tree. But it's still alive. After it got uprooted, it sent up new growth and is still living to this day, but not in a good state, unfortunately. This here, I believe, is some type of different maple, not a sugar maple. And over here, we have a very chewed up, gnarled old willow. Man, look at that trunk, just a monster. It's a huge trunk. Probably like definitely 6 feet wide right there. Multiple trunks grown together, sort of. Well, I guess that's the south point of the island. Let's go ahead and get back in the punt and drift on down to the rest of the island towards the north. Now this just looks inviting right here, this little grove of willows with some nice shade. I just spooked a couple of cormorants off their roost. Might be some more in here. I can almost guarantee that there are. Oh wow, there's like a really fragrant smell in here. Got some wild hibiscus growing. Very cool. You may recognize this flower from Hawaiian shirts. This is quite the little hideout here among the willows on this mound of sand. It would actually be a kind of a neat place to camp, minus the bird poo and just all the sand. I've camped on sand a couple of times. The camping is fine. It's more so the de-sanding process that has to come afterward. It's pretty rough. Getting sand out of tents, sleeping bags, and all that kind of gear. But I like being on the sand, just don't like dealing with it afterwards. There goes an osprey with a fish. The island is pretty segmented right now with a lot of inundated low spots, and then you get these little high and dry patches of sand over here. I'm really not very good at promoting myself, but I'm trying to do better because got to fund my operation somehow, and peddling my boat plans is what allows me to keep this channel charging along at full sail, as my little advertisement used to say. So I do appreciate everyone that's purchased the P-Row plans or the Pelican Punt plans, and I encourage you to check them out. Check out my growing library of small boat plans. My designs are really simple and cheap to build, relatively speaking, and accessible to the average person who has some basic practical skills with tools and carpentry handyman stuff. So check out those boat plans. They are very affordable. Just about to hit the north point of the island, and looks like we got some crows roosting down there in a tall dead tree. Actually, maybe it's crows and cormorants, I think. Or maybe they're just too far away and I'm thinking cormorants or crows. Both black birds, kind of similar size. Cormorants are a little bigger. Kind of a little bigger than a duck, a little smaller than a goose. Osprey. There's just something about a wooden boat. You don't build a solid plank boat like this because you're seeking top performance. You build it because you just want to build a boat, or maybe because you like the aesthetic, or you want to have that connection with the past and the way people used to get on the water, which is in a lot of areas, especially around here along the Ohio, Mississippi, Tennessee, and Cumberland River where I'm at right now. There probably weren't a lot of boat rides, people who made their living building boats for others. So a lot of people, especially if you were poor, and most people around here were, if you wanted a boat, you had to build it yourself, and it would be something, simple but practical and functional, like my designs, like this Pelican Punt or the 12-foot P-row. But there is just something about using a wooden boat, being out in wild places like this. It may sound kind of goofy, but to me, a plastic kayak, brightly colored often, sort of seems like an intrusion. I mean, I don't want to overstate it, but it can kind of spoil the atmosphere in a way, whereas a wooden boat just fits in. It belongs out here. And you notice even little things like when you bang into the sides with a paddle or something, it makes that sort of warm, woody, mellow sound, as opposed to the sound of aluminum boats or kayaks or fiberglass. It just sounds different. And boats, of course, have a resonance to them. They have a body like a guitar almost. So you definitely notice that sound, and it's something you wouldn't really even think about until you've paddled or sailed a wooden boat. Got an osprey chasing crows, and there was one brave cormorant that hung on to the roost till the last second. They'll probably just move on down the island to the south, more than likely. They're not that afraid of me. Well, I think we've seen the full extent of the island, Big Pelican Island, with Lake Barkley just slightly below Summer Pool. Saw some beautiful scenery. It was a beautiful morning, and saw a whole bunch of birds out here. And if you're interested in wildlife photography, or just photographing scenery, or just sightseeing from the water, I think there's a good way to do it on a light air day. And usually mornings are the lightest, mornings or evenings. That can vary, of course. But on a light air day, just get upwind of your target in a canoe or kayak and drift with the breeze. I drifted all the way down the length of the island, taking video and stuff, and just watching the birds and taking in the scenery. And it takes a lot of the work out of it. You don't have to paddle, just drift and give a little rudder control with the paddle, or a steering stroke every now and then to keep it pointed the right direction. But it's been a good day, and I thank you for watching. Check out those boat plans linked in the description. For Cumberland Rover, I am Nick, and I'll see you on the next one. Oh, and one more thing. You thought you were going to get away without me mentioning the Skid Files, my summer skimboarding side project. Check out the mini-series, the Skid Files playlist, here on the Cumberland Rover channel. I've been having a blast making those skimboarding videos. I started skimboarding by getting into a little DIY project, building plywood skimboards, and I have since carried on with it because I've been having so much fun. And the videos are kind of similar to my boat videos. A lot of them are sort of adventure videos combined with skimboarding action footage. I leave the falls in there because I know that people who don't skimboard like to see the falls. And also the music is a little heavier. I put my heavier songs in there that I record, and it's mostly instrumental music, but more of a rock and roll style, even a little bit heavier rock in some cases, but electric guitar, electric bass, and that kind of thing. Drums, all that. So if you want some good entertainment, check out the Skid Files. Thanks for watching.